quenches the thirst quite like coffee. That is the way we do. That is the way we do
I
it.
love it.
Um, I'm going to try something different with my screen because I'm adventurous.
Okay.
We're good, right?
I'm, yeah, I'm
The
trying to be.
new, the new look and feel. We have new branding. Everybody, welcome to Coffee with Scott and Laura. You can see we're repositioning this a little bit, moving away from my coffee toned themes and thinking more about this as building momentum. Trying to have these sessions. They won't all relate to each other exactly, but just the idea between really taking what we share here on Wednesday mornings and making it applicable and taking some action in your business. I hope at the end of most of these, I say something like, okay, let's go. Like, what's the thing that you're going to go implement today? What's the thing that you learned? What can you go implement in your business, make you a better real estate agent, make you a better husband, father, mother, wife, make you a better business person, whatever it happens to be. And so that theme of building momentum, and if you guys, I don't know, not that you like follow me on social media and stuff, but we are big hikers. We are almost all the way around the top of Tahoe Rim Trail. We've got two segments of the trail left that we will finish. We better finish in July. We've got about 32 miles left and quite a steep climb. That guy on top of that mountain, that's pretty much the way that I'm going to look in a couple more weeks. But we're doing a little rebrand here, so I hope you like it. If you like it, it was my idea. If you think it sucks, it's because Laura designed it. So either way, I'm good. Um, Today we're gonna talk about a real life example of how I used AI this week to save a deal or to get a deal going is probably a more accurate way of putting it. And and then we're going to end with that momentum challenge about how to actually go take hopefully something that I shared today that then you can use in your own business going forward. So let me kind of set the stage for this. We had a client. We have a home on the market right now. The house has a power purchase agreement on it. Hopefully, this applies to people around the country. Solar is a really big thing in California. I know it isn't everywhere, but it is around here. And the power purchase agreement is just one of those solar contracts that's out there. In this particular case, my clients have a contract. I know I'm going to kind of look around the side of my screen here for a second. Um, Clients have this power purchase agreement on their home that says that in year one of the contract, their monthly payment for that solar was about $350. And then each year of that contract at the anniversary month, it goes up by 2.99%, 3%. Okay. The reality is it is a cost savings out here in California. That cost uh, having a monthly fixed electric bill, in this case, it's now escalated to about $400 a month, is still a pretty substantial savings against having no solar at all on the house. However, as a buyer, you're looking at that going, wow, it's a $400 bill and it's going to keep going up every month. That's kind of a scary number. And it had just become a obstacle in getting this home into contract. And so I thought, okay, had I been a little bit more ahead of it, we would have done an analysis on this solar contract prior to going on the market. But I'm always willing to be a little bit vulnerable here on Wednesday mornings. That was a miss that we'll get better at going forward. But if you've ever looked at a solar contract, by the way, by a show of hands, who's ever looked at a solar contract? Who's ever read from cover to cover a solar contract? Yeah. So I thought, okay, I need a little bit of a cheat code here. I need a little bit of a cheat code here to have my AI machine take a look at this contract and help me understand it and then help me position it both from a marketing perspective and then how to better explain it to a potential buyer's agent or a potential buyer. Okay. And so I'm just going to walk you through my process that I did with ChatGPT, and hopefully this will be helpful for at least one person watching this morning. Ha 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 ha. Ha. Laura, my ChatGPT screen is showing now.
You are, yes.
Okay, sweet. Okay. So I'm going to probably stay a lot on AI themes as we go forward. I don't want to be known as like the AI guy, but I do think that AI has a huge benefit to be working behind us. In fact, I sat on a panel last week at a Keller Williams event here in Northern California. Um, and I sat, I don't, why I got picked to be on the AI panel, I don't know. But it did challenge me to go do some research and some soul searching on how I want to use it. And what I came to really was just that, is that I want to be more forward facing. I want to be doing a better job and elevating our service as it relates to my direct communication with clients. See, I think what's happening with AI right now is people are putting the tool between them and the client. They're letting the tool do the communication. They're letting the tool produce the marketing. They're letting the tool send out emails. They're letting the tool sometimes answer phone calls or make phone calls. I think there's a real danger in that. If we let AI replace us, it surely will. Or to say it differently, for those agents that aren't using AI, um, those agents are going to be replaced by agents that do, but only in a sense where we're using it from a consumer-centric perspective. And so I kind of tongue-in-cheek said that when I think about AI, I want it to be working behind us so that I can have authentic interactions. That's the AI. In order for me to have authentic interactions, I need to have the tool behind me to support me, to give me the information I need so that I can go then share that in an authentic way with our clients. And one of the keys on all of these AIs is how to best prompt it to get back the decision or the information that you need. My suggestion is this: you talk to it. Typing takes more time, but if you just talk stream of consciousness, it gets out faster and you tend to add more details than you would otherwise. So that's kind of setting the stage for what this was. So here's what I did here. I took this solar agreement and I dropped it in here in ChatGPT. And then I put in this prompt. I'm a real estate agent. I represent the seller on this house, and I need to be able to explain the pros and cons of the attached solar contract to a potential buyer. I need them to understand that this contract is better than having no solar at all on the house. Can you compare the terms of the contract against the cost it would be if they're getting their electricity directly from PG&E and not had solar at all? Okay, and it spits back this information. It basically says, okay, here's what you're buying your kilowatt hours for. It did its own research to figure out how much PG&E charges in these two different tiers of rates that PG&E gives. And then says, here's how much you're saving in year one. Here's the pros, here's the con, here's a way to explain it. I then asked a question is there a way that we can cancel the contract without penalty? And the short answer here was no, not without, buying it out. So, okay, cool. Let's go a different route. The analysis that they originally did, that the computer did here, the machine did here, was assuming year one of the contract. Well, this contract was signed in 2021. So I said, now we need to fast forward 5 years. So it's now June of 2026, which means the payment will be going up on the anniversary in July. So what will the new payment be in July of 2026? I want to make sure that I'm giving this buyer, I want to make sure I'm giving any future buyer or buyer's agents the accurate information as to how this works. So they're saying, okay, cool. Their payment now going into year 6 is going to be $408 a year. Okay, great. Now we have a baseline to work from. So now based upon that monthly payment of 408, what is the savings versus having no solar at all? Assuming that the client is using 20,000 kilowatt hours per year. And now we're getting into the meat of it. So what the analysis comes back and says, okay, I'm actually paying about 33 or I'm paying on the solar contract about 23 cents a kilowatt hour, where right now PG&E is charging 33 cents on the low peak hours of the day. And then as you use more energy, or depending on the time of day you use energy, you then get billed at 41 cents per kilowatt hour. Okay. So that estimated savings then comes down here, and it's pretty significant. I mean, for some of you, you see that sticker shock and say $408 a month for electricity seems exorbitant. In our area, specifically in our county, that's a pretty normal amount if you didn't have solar. Yeah, if you didn't have solar. In fact, in a lot of people's cases, their electric bill themselves is 500, 600. I know I have friends whose electric bills are over $1,000 per month. So the analysis came back and said, if with a new payment of 408 compared to what it would be with PG&E, the customer is getting the benefit of somewhere between 161 and $299 per month in savings. That's a big number. Almost $3,600 a year in savings. So where you're like, well, 408 is a lot to pay. This is a lot more. The difference of 408 compared to maybe as much as $700 per month is still a pretty big savings. So a simple buyer facing message is, even after the July increase to 401, the solar power is effectively costing 24 cents compared to that range with PG&E. That's still roughly a savings of $160 to $300 a month versus having no solar at all. That's Now we're making progress. So the next question, if I read it right, there's an option to purchase the system from Sunrun. Did I read that right? And machine goes back, does the analysis, comes back and kind of runs through all these different things, blah, 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 blah. One of the things that it says in the contract is if you are selling the house, that Sunrun will do an analysis on what the fair market value is to purchase that system outright. So one of the buyer's agents had reached out and said, hey, look, I looked at the solar contract. The solar contract says in order to buy it out, it was like 80,000 bucks, which is crazy. She was right. She was right and she was wrong. What the solar contract said is if you added up every payment between now and the expiration of the contract, that you were just going to prepay for all your electric usage for the next 20 years, next 19 years. The total was something like $80,000. So yeah, you have the right. You could go write a check today for $80,000 and then not have any monthly payment for the next 19 years. I don't think anyone does that, but you could. But there's also another clause in there that says that you could buy this system only either after 5 years of owning it or upon the sale of the system at fair market value. That's what FMV means over here. I say, great. How do you determine it? And then it goes in and says, the contract specifically says Sunrun will determine fair market value by using an independent appraisal of a comparable in-service system located someplace else in the market that is the same age, the same size, the same equipment, blah, 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 blah. It then went on to say, okay, what would that cost? And it gives a couple of different examples, but it says, somewhere in this range of $40,000 to $55,000 is what it would cost probably new. And then put it in a table to say, here's a couple of ranges that would be a fair market value. Okay. So it's probably going to be somewhere in this range, to be honest. And then here's that section in there that says in year 5, it says an estimated prepay of that $84,000. That's the deal that if you chose just to buy out pay for your electricity all in advance. Okay. So I said, cool. Now we're getting someplace. So we know that we're saving a potential buyer about $3,000 a year just by using this system. That's compared to having no solar at all. But then the next question was, what would it cost if we just bought this thing outright? So the machine here says fair market value somewhere probably in this 40 to $50,000 plus range, $55,000, something like that. Okay, great. I said, okay, well, how do I actually get that payoff? If I needed to call them, what number should I call? So rather than going back, pulling up the contract, going to Google, finding a number for Sunrun, whatever else, just ask the question right in the chat. It says, call this number. I said, what number do I, what account number? I said, just reference the address. And then I said, okay, cool. I'm not authorized to speak on the account. If I called Sunrun, they wouldn't talk to me because I'm not the account holder. But my client is motivated to help with this. So I said, great. Coach me on what my client should say. So I said, give me a statement that I can copy and paste to my client, the sellers, so that they can discuss this. And please reference in the contract where to find this language about the fair market value. And it did. It just crafted this script, so to speak, that my client could then call Sunrun and get going on this. Here's where to reference the contract, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So we get that done. My client calls Sunrun. Sunrun comes back and says, great news. You can go ahead and prepay out all your solar and buy this thing out for that same number, for that $84,000 number. Or if you want to buy the system outright, we'll sell it to you for $93,000. Okay. So doesn't sound right based upon the analysis that the machine did here. So we dug a little bit deeper then. And what Sunrun was really saying was, hey, we're servicing the debt. Basically, they're not real incentivized to have you pay this off. They want you to make the monthly payment every month. That's how they make their money, by basically being the lender in this case. So they're not going to give you the deal. They're going to say, oh no, it's $93,000. You said, wait a second, that's not how your contract reads. Your contract reads that you're going to have an independent third party go out and evaluate this system compared to other 5-year-old systems that are 51 panels that generate 20,000 kilowatt hours in El Dorado Hills or El Dorado County. So when my client called, he got back a response from Sunrun in like 20 minutes on what that buyout was going to be, what that purchase price was going to be. I was like, oh, how could you have done an independent third-party appraisal in 20 minutes? That's not right. But Sunrun just goes to hey, if the consumer doesn't know, if they don't dig any deeper, then we're just going to give them this number and we're going to move on. And we're going to continue to collect their check every month. By the way, I probably should be saying company X. Maybe I shouldn't be actually calling out the company. So you just don't record this part, Laura. Don't record any of this. Don't broadcast any of this to any of the services. So now we're pushing back. Now we're pushing back and saying, you're not honoring what your contract says. In fact, we talked to somebody at customer service yesterday, and they said, no, here's how we do it. I said, great, I understand how you did it. I understand how you got to your number, but that's not what your contract actually states. Here's what your contract actually states. And at this point this morning, now they're sharpening their pencils. They know that now they have a customer, in this case, a real estate agent, that is an advocate that's going to push back against them. And we're waiting for our revised number to come back today. And I fully expect that number to fall somewhere around the $60,000-ish range. It's not an awesome number, but it's way less than $93,000. And if and when this number comes back in this morning, we find out that it truly is in that range of being back at that $60,000 range, now we have something to work from. Because now I can go back to any potential buyer out there and not only give them an analysis here on what their monthly savings is, having this power purchase agreement versus having no solar at all, but I can also say, look, if you wanted to buy the system outright, it's only this much. It's less than what you might have seen in the contract. And two, as a point of negotiation, I mean, the seller's not going to pay all that off, but maybe they'd participate and pay off a portion of that. Maybe they'd give you a credit and you can go buy it off on your own in the future if you choose to, whatever you'd happen to do. But now we have a different vehicle in order to be positioning this home differently in the market. So it's going to be more attractive to a broader range of buyers. Okay. So here was my learning lesson from all of this. And maybe something if you guys are taking notes this morning that you might want to consider doing is in hindsight, I should have taken everything that we just walked through. I should have done that in advance of the house going on the market. Is having the opportunity to throw the contract in ChatGPT, have it ask all these same questions. And now I am being proactive in overcoming an objection that a potential buyer may have rather than now reacting. Okay, so lesson learned, and that may be something for you all too, is that one of you right now probably has a home on the market or is getting ready to put a house on the market that has a solar contract. You have an opportunity to get ahead of it right now. And then in your marketing remarks and your additional attachments in the multiple listing service, you can add that in there so that you are answering the question before somebody asks it. Okay. So that's something that we will be doing going forward. In fact, we have solar contracts and a couple of other homes that we have on the market right now or coming to market too, for that matter. Not all of them have power purchase agreements though. Some of those are solar leases. And some of those are systems that are just owned outright. So it's still that same mindset is how does a solar lease impact the value of the house? How does it impact the buyer's debt to income ratio in purchasing it? If you're pricing a home that has leased solar, how would you price that differently compared to a home that has a power purchase agreement that has owned solar or has no solar at all? You could put those types of questions back into your machine as well. Flipping that coin over from the buyer side, same idea here is don't, as a level of service to your client, throw it in, let it do an analysis, say and identify who you are. I'm a buyer's agent. I have a client that's considering buying this home with this contract. Can you please analyze the contract? Give me the pros and the cons about what's here. What are some talking points I should be having with my clients so that they can best understand it and make the best decision as it relates to potentially making an offer on this home? Okay. Now, word of caution. The machine's not always right. Definitely makes mistakes. I was sharing a story that one of the projects I'm working on right now with the machine is on some health and diet and exercise stuff. And over the weekend is Wednesday. On Sunday, it made two mistakes on some things that we were tracking together. And I called it out. I said, hey, look, you need to do better work. I've hired you as my fitness coach. You need to be tracking this stuff better. That's the role you're playing here, machine. And said, oh, you're so right. I said, great. Go back and look over the last 3 days for any other mistakes that you may have made. Go back and revise your work. And it did. It went back and it took a couple minutes and came back and said, here's some other errors that I made and you're tracking your results. I'll do better going forward. Now I was very polite and Laura's always concerned. I was not mean. I still said please and thank you. I then went on to say, we're teammates in this, where you're my partner in success. I was very nice to the machine. But it still makes mistakes. You're still the expert. You're still the fiduciary in this relationship. You still have a responsibility if you're going to be to double check the work. In this case, the trick that I used was, hey, machine, you go double check your work. Do a deeper level of research to make sure that what you are recommending is accurate. And what you'll find is sometimes the machine will come back and say, no, recommendation still stands. Or it might say, you know what, upon further review, I actually found this other thing that impacts the result that you were looking for. So don't be afraid, or not, don't be afraid. A great prompt is go back, review your work and see if you made any mistakes. Okay. Um, so here's the challenge for today is what I would think about, or what I would ask for you guys is based upon what we shared, what can you do with it? What is a step that you could take today in using ChatGPT or another service that would be a benefit to your learning curve, that would be a benefit to one of the clients you're working with, anything like that. So the way that I put it on the momentum challenge was simply this. If I can move my slides, one day I'm going to get good at this, Laura. I promise. I'm going to get so good at this in the future. You're not even going to know who I am. So the momentum challenge for today is this, is to use AI to analyze a document for you. It could be one of our standard real estate forms. It could be a solar contract. It doesn't really matter. And work on your prompts. Identify yourself. I'm a real estate agent. I'm the top real estate agent in El Dorado Hills. I want to make sure that I am giving the best advice possible to a buyer client of mine as it relates to fill in the blank document. Machine, I need you to act as a real estate professional who has deep knowledge of all things contracts in the state of California. Please review this document and blah, 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 blah. The better the prompt, the better the output. Okay. So is there a document today that AI could do an analysis for you, even if it's just practice, so that you can practice your prompts and then get better at explaining it in the future? So that would be my challenge for our momentum challenge for this week, is to use the tool to see if it can help you solve a problem. And like I said, we're gonna build on this momentum series as we go through, and we're really tying it to our 75 Thrive platform as well. We talked about it last week that most of you guys know, but Laura and I host a Thursday subscription business, a community of real estate agents locally and around the country, that both for real estate offices and individuals, called 75 Thrive. And for this next quarter, we are solely focusing on sellers. We are solely focusing on listing lead generation, on searching your database for potential opportunities, about how to build business opportunities and business referrals for seller opportunities, how to serve certain segments, whether it be senior citizens or other niches inside of the seller end of things, how to overcome objections, how to price homes properly. So we've got 9 topics lined up, starting on July the 9th. And if you guys want to do a deeper dive and add a layer of education and accountability, I invite you guys to go check out the website, go over to 75 Thrive. You guys can sign up there. The price is right. There's an opportunity for you guys to do a little bit of a deeper dive on all things real estate, and specifically on this quarter as it relates to generating seller business and serving our seller clients at a higher level. And if that's not the right opportunity for you, we are always looking, or I'm always happy to do a one-on-one call with people to see if coaching would be a better step, to do a more tailored plan just for you and your goals. And if you enjoy what we share here, and you want to take even the deepest level of setting up a time to talk about what it would be like to be a member of Team Ostrode Properties here in our local market, happy to take you to coffee and find out more about your business, more about what your goals are like, and see if us working together would be a win-win for us both in partnership in business. But here's my last statement here. Don't let today's momentum stop. Take a next step. You don't have to sign up for any of these things, but take that step of momentum. Go implement, go throw something in your favorite LLM today and get a little bit better on using these tools. Let it work, let the AI tool work behind you so that you can have more authentic interactions with your clients and you look like the expert in the marketplace. So that's what I got for this week. As always, appreciate you guys being here, and we'll see you next week. Bye, Laura.